Hey, good morning and welcome to Breakthrough Walls. I'm Ken Walls and I'm your host. Today, okay, listen. This woman, I don't know if she's 5'3", I don't even know. She's just this little tiny, unassuming, amazing woman that I met recently. And the things that I learned about what she's accomplished in the business world is just absolutely unbelievable, mind boggling, in fact. And I cannot wait for you guys to hear her story. So do me a favor, whatever it is you're doing, please share this out with everybody you know. Share this live stream out so we can get a bunch of people on here and learn how to scale your business or help somebody else scale theirs, and just learn how to be an overall badass. Like, this woman is she's just amazing. So I have Julie Roy joining us here in just a second. Stay with us. Share this out. And we're back. Let me bring Julie on. Julie, welcome to the show.
Hello, Ken. So excited to be here. And thank you for making me 5'3" today. I'm 5'1", but I'll take it.
5'1". Oh, whoops. Well, hey, I don't know. I just was like, oh my God, you're just like this tiny little bundle of joy and so unassuming. And then I heard about some of the things you've accomplished. I'm like, oh my gosh, like, it's just like, it's mind boggling. So I'm excited to have you on today. I see my good friend Jamie Green is on here.
Oh, hi, Jamie. She's my friend too.
Oh, I love Jamie. She's one of I love her. She was just here in Dallas recently and I picked her up. And anyway, so Julie, I don't want to get into everything yet, but I do want to talk about, start with, I guess, where you were born and raised.
So I was born and raised in Windsor, Ontario, Canada, which is a small city, basically just across the creek, we call it, from Detroit, Michigan. So I always have had sort of an American influence, honestly, on our upbringing, coming from that border city. And so did a lot of partying and socializing in Detroit in my younger years. And so, that's where I was born and raised to immigrant parents. I'm Italian, so both sides. My dad's from Rome. My mom is from Friuli, which is northern Italian. So both of them came when they were youngsters. Their parents were sort of they were first generation, I guess, Canadian, or maybe I was. I guess I was the one born in Canada, but they moved over for work opportunities after the war, and so came through Ellis Island, through Detroit, and then ended up in Windsor, Ontario, Canada. So so a little bit of history there on our family.
Wow. I had dinner, like there's a restaurant right on the creek there in Detroit. It's a really upscale, nice, like, steakhouse. I forget, but I've never been to Canada. That's the closest I've ever. You could look out the windows of this restaurant and see Canada.
Yeah. Was it in the Renaissance building by any chance? Do you know?
I don't remember. It might have been. I don't remember.
Yeah, that's kind of like the fancy Detroit restaurant, and you can see Canada, like the skyline from the windows. Yeah. You should have just came over, Ken. It's a little 15-minute jaunt. So
I know. So Joe Ingram is wondering why I don't, because it is a rule that you don't put up a tree until after Thanksgiving. However, Julie has a really good excuse for this. So tell them your reasoning.
So we do a lot of traveling in the next 6 to 8 weeks. And so I want to enjoy the tree, at least for a little bit. But also I told Ken, I'm Canadian in heart. So we had our Thanksgiving in October. And so we're not home for this Thanksgiving. So I feel like it's opportune time now to put this. I did 3 trees, 3 levels, decorations all this weekend with my poor husband if he's around. He was
Oh,
all the mantles. I don't know if you could see some stuff back
oh
here.
my gosh.
Yeah, so I'm
Wow.
a little bit of a Christmas freak. I love all things cedar and smelling
I
in the house.
love that.
Yeah.
Is it a real tree?
So the tree's not real, but the mantles and all that are all
Yeah.
cedar. So it smells
Wow.
nice in here. Yeah, I feel
Wow.
bad for the real trees because I generally kill them. So I try not to.
I
I
know.
try not to have real trees. Mhm.
I know. So, and my wife loves having a real tree, and I'm like, that's
The
murder.
needles are an issue for OCD me. So like
Oh,
the
yeah.
garland is already like it's on the stairs, and so it's a thing. But I
That's
love the
just
smell and the
yeah.
feel. So.
I hear you. I hear you.
Mhm.
So
Sorry,
talk
Ingram.
about huh?
I said sorry, Ingram, in advance for the Christmas decor. So.
Yeah, look, he says COVID caused us to find a reason to rush every holiday. Jeez. So talk about what it was like for you um growing up in Canada, eh? You
Okay,
see
it
what
was
I did there? Eh?
sorry. So if I continually say sorry, that's another reason.
Uh
Canada was incredible. Honestly, it's a very encompassing, inclusive, warm, friendly, loving community and country. It's very non-competitive. There's some clear differentiation of
yeah.
between living in Canada and moving over here that we've become accustomed to or noticed, I guess, in the change. Yeah, it was amazing. Our first meal was not Tim Hortons. However, it was probably my second.
I mean, I'm from Ohio. We grew up with Tim Hortons. Like,
Yeah.
you know,
So we do love
He's in
Chinese.
California. They don't even know. They don't
No,
know.
they like Dutch Bros and In and Out, and
Right. Right.
but no,
Right.
yeah, no, it was amazing. And, we
Yeah.
had a lot of family. My grandparents had numerous siblings. So we always grew up with a ton of cousins around, and Italians are very family oriented. So a lot of big family meals. Talk about holidays. Everything was a holiday every weekend,
Yeah.
Nona's house, who's my grandma, 94, still lives in Canada, cooking pizzas for 19 people at a time. My mom, my dad, everybody's in Canada, my brother, Bo's family. So very lucky to have, an extended large family, and a lot of support and just traditions
How
that we grew up around.
how many siblings?
Like a lot. Like Bo's dad has, I think, 14. My
No,
grandma,
you. How many do
oh,
you
me,
have?
I have one, a brother.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's all our like extended. Like we
But
have a
you guys have huge your parents had huge oh my gosh. Wow. Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So
So
just with a lot of folks around us all the time.
when you were what's interesting, I watched an interview with Grant Cardone. He interviewed Tommy Mello recently, and Tommy was on this show a couple years ago. And I watched this last night. It was unbelievable, like absolutely unbelievable. And I just saw so many things that I could relate to from an entrepreneurial place, right?
Yeah.
So I'm always curious, like when you were growing up, was there anything that you can think of that was an indicator like, oh, this girl's going to be, she's going to be an entrepreneur? Was there anything that made you stand out like that?
I don't know if when I was really young, I think I stood out more as a teacher. I would like walk around with like my papers, teaching all the stuffed animals and
Oh, okay.
in the
Yeah.
house. But I will tell you that my parents, way in my early years, owned a hardware store. And I was always at the till, welcoming customers, pretending I was doing the accounting upstairs in the office. So I feel like we were raised in a very entrepreneurial environment. And so having
Mhm.
had that, I feel like, it's definitely in our bones.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So did you find yourself like in your teens, were you working? Did you start any small little ventures on your own?
Well, I started a babysitting. Like I babysat very early, like at 12, and I babysat
Mhm.
everyone in the neighborhood. Like anybody that had a bowling standing bowling night I babysat for, and then they started like referring me out. And so I created this little MLM of babysitting in our neighborhood, and I was kind of the go-to babysitter. So I feel like that was my very first business, right? Where I was
Yep.
like, okay, I can work more. There's no ceiling. It depends on what I do, right? So that mentality, I think.
Yep.
Um, and also, I always felt like I was never going to be great at working for somebody. That was kind of always in my bones. Like I was a good employee, but I was always thinking about, we could do this better. We could do this faster. We could do this more efficiently. Why don't we do it this way? And so actually my first real big business venture started from working for someone that I ended up really building their business for them, and then decided I can do this on my own. And so that was the Montessori preschools. And so I was working for a woman named Michelle in a before and after school Montessori program while I was in college. In
Right.
university. And I was like growing her program. I was enrolling all these kids. I was super passionate about the program. And we had to expand into other like classrooms in the high school that we were in. And I was like, I can do this. Like, I love this. And the parents are connecting with me, and I'm doing all this stuff like for someone else. And although I love Michelle and the opportunity and the learning adventure she gave me, I was like, I can do this. Right. And so that's what kind of spurred me into my own first entrepreneurial adventure, which was, we can talk about that in a minute, but
Yeah.
so I feel like I was always in my mind, I knew that I wanted to do something, really didn't know what that was going to be until later. But yeah, I think that I'm an entrepreneur at heart for sure.
So
Mhm.
you did go to college. Or,
I
well, in
did.
Canada, they call it university.
Yes, I was
Um,
gonna say university, but then I'm like, I don't know. And then wait till I start saying, pop and all the other things. But
hey, I say pop.
okay, yes, because
Yeah,
you're from there, but
pretty
over
much.
here, everyone's like, oh, are you from Minnesota? I'm like, no, I'm Canadian. But yeah,
No.
um, yeah. So I think there's I did go to college. I did not do anything related to college. Initially, I was in law school.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, hated it. But, I came from immigrant parents. And so you had to be a lawyer or a doctor, or, that was kind of the pathway that you were going to have the least resistance with the most money, is kind of what they came
Yeah,
from hard times, right? So they
yeah,
wanted their kids to do better than them. I think that was always the philosophy in our
right,
family.
right.
And so dropped out. That was fun. Uh, you know,
How did that go?
not
Was there
very
any
well.
judgment?
Yes, and also because I think the big thing, Ken, is that you spend a lot of money to go to college, right? So you have to get the money to pay for that. And so I had
Yeah.
loans, all the things. So it didn't go over well, but it ended up
Mhm.
going over well later. but at the time, not, and funny now, our whole idea of college is so different in our family. Um, you
Is
know,
it?
yeah, now I'm like, you don't need college. Like, if you want to be entrepreneurial, go ahead, do your thing. I did graduate, Jamie, from college. She said college dropout here. And it's not what I did or what I used, but, and I'm not against it fully. If you're going to sit around and do nothing, I feel like then sit around and take some business classes at least, right?
Yeah.
So my older son is in Warren Buffett business program at UNL. My younger son, well, younger. So my two oldest are both in college. My two
Wow.
littles are in middle school, but my second one's in pre-med. And that's his passion. He wants to be a doctor, well, or he thinks right now. But,
Yeah.
they talk about owning real estate. They're 18 and 19. They're looking for properties. Even the
Wow.
doctor son is like, I'm going to own the building. I'm going to rent to other doctors. I'm going to own the lab. Like the mentality I think that we're providing is, look, you can think big or bigger. You don't have to think in this little box of, I'm just going to serve people and be a doctor. That's great if you do that, but doctors should be thinking about passive income and an eventual way out of the grind. And so if you want to do a couple days as a doctor and the rest of the days as a real estate investor, that would be awesome.
I,
Yeah.
so you say all of that, and that all sounds. Those are nice sound bites.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you weren't thinking that when you graduated from
No, but
college.
I wasn't, Ken, but I also didn't have the environment to be thinking that, right? I mean, our parents
Right.
didn't know that. What you don't know, you don't know. Now
Right.
that we have the ability, the opportunity, the spaces, the rooms, the proximity. I'm like, guys,
Yeah.
like we know better, let's do better, right? Why are we
Yeah.
working the grind? Why are we doing all this when here's what we could be doing, right? And I
Yep.
think I wrote a book. It's coming out soon. Well, I can't really get into too much of it, but I just wrote a book on real estate investing that I put out just to help people learn about real estate investing. But why I'm bringing this up is that I feel like what you don't know, you don't know. And if you know
Right.
better, like I said, we can do better. And so helping them learn this stuff early is a game changer, Ken. I
Yep.
didn't learn this until my 40s, and I'll be 50 next month. So, I mean, there's a lot here that like
Yeah.
compressing the timelines, right? For
Yep.
this generation that we like our kids, right? Creating a legacy without a purpose or a reason that the legacy understands the legacy, what's the point? Like if you create a legacy and they don't know what to do with it, what is the point of having a legacy, right? And so
Amen.
yeah, I feel like if we're not teaching our kids this stuff, if we're not being intentional and strategic about our journey and also helping them be intentional and strategic about theirs,
Yeah.
we're not fulfilling anyone's purpose here, right? And so the other point I was going to say is that when we were younger, we came with financial trauma. All of us do. We come with this idea of saving, 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 right? Of okay, don't spend any money for that rainy day, because we came from folks who were in the war. My grandpa was a
Yep.
prisoner of war. He walked
Yep.
from Italy to Germany, barely made it home alive. Like we're talking a very different mindset here, right? Scarcity, always thinking scarce, like we're not going to have enough for the next day.
Right.
So changing that scarcity to abundance, that mindset shift is integral and imperative actually for growth,
The,
yeah.
my question. So, and it sounds like you had a wonderful childhood. It sounds like you had loving, caring parents and all that, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so yeah, I did.
Yeah.
My dad left us when we were really young, and so
Oh,
that definitely had some impact on me as a child. My mom
okay.
was a single mom working 2, 3 jobs at a time, so a lot of
Wow.
responsibility on me to take care of my brother, to come home. I was a latchkey kid, right? My mom was very proud, and she wanted to make sure we had everything we needed for the basics, right? Food and
Right.
housing, and so she worked a lot. The divorce was challenging for her, honestly.
Yeah.
As a mom, Italian, the stigma around it at the time, there's a lot of things that came with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel like adversity breeds abundance. And we've talked about that. And I
Yep.
feel like why I'm here today, all those things happen for a reason. And
Yep.
so I'm not bitter. I'm not angry about anything that happened in my past. I'm grateful. I'm thankful. I'm appreciative every day that I'm in the position I'm in. And I truly believe that the adversity created the abundance we currently have and the generosity. I've always, always given. My mom is super generous too. And we've given, given, given. And I really, truly believe that karma has given back tenfold all the things we went through and all the hardships, the adversity, the anything we didn't even have enough to give and we gave, right? So I feel
Yep.
like that is all coming back 1,000,000 times over. And I believe that. I do.
Do you feel like, because and I can relate to everything you just said, including the divorce and the father leaving at a young I can totally relate to all of that. And I've always tried to create an environment for my children that they believe anything is possible,
Mhm.
anything.
Yep.
In fact, in that interview I was talking about with Grant and Tommy Mello, Grant, Grant, and
Yeah,
he's,
I'm his mentee.
I
Did
know,
you
right?
so
And like me too. And so, I think that he's really good at picking, like he's,
Mhm.
and he's picking at
Yeah.
Tommy saying, it sounded like he was trying to get Tommy to say, yeah, college is worthless. And
Mhm.
I think that unless you're going to be a doctor or a lawyer,
Mhm.
right, or
Right.
something that
Or
requires,
technical, right, like
yeah,
engineering or
yeah,
like,
yeah,
let's call it the 3 what do they say? The 3 highest paying W-2 jobs are
yeah,
lawyer, doctor, or engineer, right? So if you're going
yeah,
to learn a skill that you
Yeah.
require college background for, I 100% agree. You need to do it. I mean, there's not
Yeah.
another option. You
Yeah.
can't be a doctor by practicing, right? I mean,
No,
you
no.
have to learn all the ropes, and it's a process, and it's a journey, and it's an educational commitment. But
I think AI is gonna take place of a lot of that, though.
uh,
I think it's gonna
100%,
it's gonna
yes.
hurt. But, I think that, again, for me, knocking on doors at a young age and selling and learning how to communicate effectively is probably it's why I see I know a lot of people that are Mormons and,
Mhm.
LDS, that they go out and do this 2-year mission right out of high school. And I'm like, can you
Mhm.
imagine how hard it is doing that? You want to talk about some serious training. So, I like the fact that you've created this environment for your children to believe anything is possible.
Yeah, and to that fact, Ken, I want to also share, like, not only do we say, you know what, the sky's the limit, guys, really, you control that ceiling, right? You
Yeah.
control your future. And we've put that in them since babies. The issue is then they really believe that. So now they
Right.
go out there and be an entrepreneur and be, do this and do that, which is awesome. But
Yeah.
it is a little challenging to parent. I will agree that, creating that path for them is awesome, but then parenting them through that is a little bit of a challenge.
Yeah.
But I will tell you also, with the fact that you're saying, everything is possible, we also encourage what we call lessons, which are technically failures, but we don't call them failures in our house. We call them lessons, because unless the lesson is that you quit, then it's a failure.
Right.
Unless you're not, if you're not quitting, it's a lesson. If you're quitting, then you failed, right? So our idea around this as parents has been to really be strategic and intentional also about our thoughts and how we think, and what our thoughts turn into words, our words turn into our actions. We constantly talk about fueling your mind with abundance and good positive mindset and great thinking, because at the end of the day, entrepreneurship is really hard, really hard. And so
Yeah.
if you don't have the backbone, if you don't have the right mindset, you're going to go through some really shitty shit. Like, that's
Yeah.
just, I mean, let's
That's
just
a
put,
technical term, actually.
yeah,
Shitty shit.
shitty shit. So if you're not prepared for the really shitty shit, that's
Yeah.
when everything blows up around you, right? I mean,
Yeah.
COVID hit. I think we talked about this, before, but COVID hit and I had $150,000 biweekly payroll and like 300 and some staff. Like, I went in the basement,
Wow.
locked myself in the basement for 24 hours and came up with a solution. I mean, that's the kind of mindset, unfortunately, as entrepreneurs, we have to be in. If you're
Yeah.
in like a woe is me, this is all happening to me, not for me, like it's about changing how we think about all the issues and concerns around us, really. I mean, you have to change the way you think about life.
Yep.
In saying that too, I mean, we don't even think of life anymore in terms of return on investment. That's not even what we're thinking about anymore. We're thinking about life, or thinking about investment on return on life, right? Return on life to us means all the things, personally, professional, financial, all those decisions have to be considered when we're using either our time. So if we're
Yep.
trading our time for anything, it's not anymore about what the return on investment is. It's how are we either building up people, adding value to others, creating generosity? How are we doing that personally, professionally, financially? And is it worth the time being away from our kids? Being, in a situation where we are giving up our time, because at the end of the day, the only thing that we don't have control of in life is our time. And that's not something we
Mm.
can buy back. And so in this next half of life, we're being really intentional about what we do with our time, how we spend our time, what we're feeding our mind with, who our friends are, what the circles around us are. And we lead with love, and we lead with passion, and we lead with intention and generosity. And at the end of the day, if you have integrity and you have the right frame of mind going into things, you'll just do better, you'll just be better as a human.
I think, I look at people. I'll use Tommy Mello as an example. Here he's going to do 200 million this year, doing garage doors. And And I'm like, dude, what? And I, but I look at this and he's 40 years old and he's
Mhm.
going to do $200 million this year. And I think, man, I wasn't doing that at 40 years old. Where did I go wrong? And I think, honestly, I think that is what happens to a lot of people who are entrepreneurs. We compare we
Sure.
compare, right? And we see somebody like Tommy or Bill Gates or whoever, and that's just, it's not always like, for me, it's been 20, 30 years of just grinding it out and making mistakes and trying again. Talk about that with you, because I know that you've been an entrepreneur for a lot of your adult life. Talk about that. Where did
For
it all
for Yeah, I've been an entrepreneur for longer than I've been alive, I feel like. So,
right?
yeah, so where to start? So I started a preschool in the basement of a church with a $25,000 loan from a guy named Malcolm Banks in the back alley, who actually at the time brought us in. I actually brought my boyfriend at the time, who's now my husband, Bo. We went through this back alley in downtown Windsor. If you know anything about downtown, it's not like really where you want to hang out. And it was this burgundy door. And I knocked on the door. I found the ad in the paper that said, if you need,
Yep.
money,
Right.
basically come and meet me. And I was like, oh,
Oh
this is
my
great.
god.
Money. I need to do this business. I just came home off a stint. I was in Europe playing soccer and studying for about 4 years. So I came home broke, of course, right? 20 some years old, broke with this big, huge dream. And so I was like, I'm going to start this school in the basement of my mom's house. So
Wow.
you love that, by the way. So I did
Wow.
one summer. It was a camp, and it was really funny because we lived in front of a park, which was great for recess, right? We had recess, natural recess. And then down the
Nice.
street, we had a cemetery. So lots of room for the kids to play. So I
Oh my
started
lord.
in the school. Yeah. And all these parents, like, they loved me and they trusted me with all their kids. And we had such a great time and everything worked out. But my mom was like, yeah. So there's a ton of liability here. I don't think we should do this ongoing. Like, what's your plan? So, anyways, needed money to
Wow.
get out of the house, right? And so took this loan from Malcolm at $25,000 at 19%. Little did I know, like, what did I know about loan sharks or, if you don't pay loans back? I had no idea about anything, right? Not
Yeah.
suggesting you start your business this way. However, adversity breeds abundance. So
Yes.
started this, had this loan. He actually sat us down and looked at my husband across the table and said, "Do you love this girl?" And he was like, "Yeah." And he said, "Well, I hope so, because if she doesn't pay this loan back, like, you're the collateral."
Wow.
So yeah. So thank
Wow.
God for Bo, who's now my husband now, and we have 4 kids and been married 20 years in August. We've been
And he
dating.
didn't have any fingers or hands cut off or
He is
anything?
whole, but I did make sure that first year we paid Malcolm back. So that was my
Yeah.
goal. I was like, I'm gonna have
Wow.
12 months. I performed it in the best way I knew how to perform at anything. I didn't even know I was doing a performa. I
Wow.
was the teacher, the cook, the enrollment person. I ended up recruiting my amazing cousin Dana, who is my youngest girl cousin.
Wow.
She came in and helped me in the school, and we moved. Listen, Ken, I don't know, this is old school entrepreneurship. We moved the shelves and the entire classrooms in and out of the church every morning and every night so they could have brownies and karate. And
Oh
so
my
imagine,
god.
yes, imagine all the
What?
things. So when people say to me, "Oh, she's so lucky," boop, back it up. It had nothing to do with luck, So I'm really passionate about
Wow.
sharing the beginning story because a lot of folks, they can relate to this type of grind, right? I mean, like
Yeah.
every morning, Bo at the time was learning, he was in his internship to become a child psych. And so he would come help me at the end of the day and we'd mop the floor quick so that the other activities could come in. And he'd sometimes
Wow.
come in the morning as well. And I was like, mind you, I had my babies, all this, right? Through all this process. So like, I grinded day and night forever. Had my first baby, Xavier, on Friday night. Saturday morning, went to the schools to do payroll with him before he even went home. So like,
Oh my gosh.
entrepreneurs are made of steel. Like
Wow.
for any sense of intensive purposes, like when you see a successful entrepreneur, all you should be thinking in your head is, wow, like, and congratulate them, because if you're thinking at all that, you know, they were so lucky, or that you have this jealousy for them, you have no idea what that entrepreneur has risked in their life.
Right.
Pretty much
Yep.
their entire savings, their family savings, everybody's savings around them, to get to the point that they're at today.
And their freedom and their
100%.
sanity.
Yeah, like people are like, well, you know, don't trade your time, you know, for money, you know, working for someone else. Listen, I worked double what I would have worked for anyone else in that 28 years. Yes, we had 2 amazing successful exits to private equity. We sold all of the real estate with it. We had an incredible multiple on sale. We did all the things, right? But it did not happen without all of the work, all the adversity, all the challenges, all the creative thinking, the solutions, the problem solving, which is, by the way, what I love, right? It's what
Yeah.
fuels me as an entrepreneur. But it also is, it's stressful and it's hard and it's tiring. And I was also raising, you know, I was a mom of 4 babies, you know, thankfully for family and my grandparents and my mom, who actually ended up working at the schools, like, you know, thankful for the village that it took for us to get to where we're at, because like gratitude again, right? For all of that. Sometimes I think of it, it's an emotional journey, you know, it's a lot. It's a lot. Mm-hmm.
You know, so many people do see, and I see McGinna is
Hi,
showing up as Facebook user.
yeah.
McGinna, go over to my personal page and watch this from there, so your name will show up. But you know, people do see like you as, I mean, I heard a rumor of the numbers that you've done, and they're huge. And you know, if the rumor's true. And so, you know, I but people look at that and they go, "Oh, look at how lucky she is."
Yeah. Yeah.
But the bottom line is you risked everything. You
So,
risked your health, you risked everything to build what you built.
so like a couple examples of that. Yes, the numbers were really big. And at the end of the day, the numbers as an entrepreneur are your utopia, right? Are your hurrah, right?
Yeah.
But all the things that I traded to get there that no one talks about, like time with my kids when they were young, that was non-existent. I was not home. Like I was
Right.
not mom. I was not the mom doing all the things, being at all the games. Thankfully, my husband was. He was awesome. And he's like, thank God, I'm telling you right now, God makes them and places them, because, or pairs them, whatever he says, because I would not have been able to do any of what I do right now. He left his career. He became a doctor, left his practice to support this journey for our family. So like he went
Wow.
to school for 16 years. Like he has sacrificed
Wow.
his whole like life. Yeah, right. So the belief in the dream, right? It's, yes, hi McGinna, we can see you now. Thank you for joining. Yeah, the belief in the dream has to be bigger than all the adversity, right? And so
Yeah.
I remember my water breaking and my husband being like, we need to get to the hospital. And I'm like, dude, we have to wait. I have kids that need to be picked up. I have to finish the stuff in the school. And he's like, Julie, we need to go. And I'm like, no worries. We got time, you know? Like
Oh my God.
people don't understand the trade that you make for this lifestyle. It's a long journey. It's not something that happens overnight. If I can make any points on this today, yes, I've had incredible exits. Yes, I've had an incredible entrepreneurial journey. But yes, the belief has to be bigger, right? And we always talk about, this is honestly what I say to my kids, and I'm going to say to all of you on here today. Your belief in your dream has to be bigger than the belief in the nightmare that you might go through.
Say it again. Say it again.
The belief in your dream has to be bigger than the nightmare that you're going to probably go through. So at the end of the day, I mean, this goes for everything, not just business, but in life in general. Like your commitment, your strategic and intentional commitment to your dream has to be bigger than the nightmare that you possibly will go through to get there. And it's okay to go through the things that you need to go through, but know that your commitment can't waver. You have to wake up every day and be intentional. You have to have discipline. You have to be committed to the end game. if you're going to fall out continually through the process, you're not going to make it there. 1 in every 3 businesses fail.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you look at the statistics of successful entrepreneurship are really low. You need yeah.
And that brings what you just said brings us to something I want to talk about with you. Because I've been in business for a very, very long time. I've been an entrepreneur all the way back to 7 or 8 years old. I started mowing lawns and shoveling snow. But I think that a business fails when the owner of that business gives up.
100%.
Because I can't, honestly, I've been in business, overdrawn in my account. Like all of it. I had a car repoed in front of my employees. I've had all the stuff happen, right? And there's been many moments where I'm like, you know what? Screw this crap. I'm going to go sell windows or something. This is ridiculous. But I never gave up.
Yeah.
Talk
And
about that.
yeah, I mean, so again, right? Your commitment and your commitment has to be the dream and the end goal and what you can foresee as an entrepreneur. What you see, your vision of your business, your vision of your end goal has to be so great. I literally have it everywhere. I have it in my closet. I have it everywhere. Like, this is where we're going, and nothing, all the noise, all the people, all the shit around me, it cannot impact me. I have to remain focused on our end game, focused on our family, mission, vision, values. I don't know if you can see it. I'll try to turn it. You see that black plaque right there in the back?
Yep.
It has all of our family, mission, vision, and values. When we walk through
my
the
God,
door,
that's
I wish I could show you it, but it's a commitment. We've made a commitment as a family. We're super strategic and intentional about everything we do. For example, we have a commitment to seeing all of the continents with our kiddos. In December this year, we will finish our 7th and final continent. We are strategic. People will say, well, you have the money to do that. No, we are intentional about the money that we make, the money that we spend, the investments that we make so that we can do these things. So everything is strategic. It's not just a matter of throwing things up in the air and hoping that these balls all end in the right courts. There's a lot of mistakes along the way. You hopefully learn from them. You put yourself in situations and proximity and rooms where people are better than you. I'm continually striving to create relationships and put people around us that are at or above where we're at constantly. I mean, it sometimes feels challenging, to be able to have the right groups and the right people around you, but commitment to that larger goal has to be greater than all that adversity that we face. Like, for example, you were talking about like having a zero balance in your account. So when
minus
and a minus. So when we started our schools in that basement of the church, my rent was $1,500, which for me was huge amounts of money back then. Like, we're thinking 2001 here. Okay. Let's back it up a little bit. So we had this rent due. I had my payment to Malcolm, which at the time was, I feel like $900 or something was the payment to him. Plus we had all of the payroll, all of the expenses for the food, all this stuff. By the way, I didn't have any business experience, zero.
Right.
So I'm trying to figure this all out at the time. Bo used to run to his job on his lunch on Friday afternoons, take that paycheck, come and put it in the account, physically run, because we didn't have all this internet shit, physically run to my bank, cash his check in our bank so that our payroll would clear for those girls who were working for us. So like, don't think for a minute that this was easy. Don't think for a minute that I walk around like, people are like, Julie, you're so humble. Like, you're so unassuming. I'm like, right. Because guess what? That's where I came from. Like, I came from humble and unassuming and working my ass off to get here. Like, this was not handed to me. It was not old money. Nobody funded me. I didn't have private equity or IPO or, a family with a ton of money. No, in fact, I was probably voted most likely to succeed. The neighborhood I grew up in, the schools we grew up in, they were inner inner city. So like I went to a high school that right now most folks wouldn't even walk to, like we grew up in that neighborhood with lots of bad shit happening around us, but at the
Wow.
time we were happy and we did as much as we could to focus on what our future was going to look like. Another thing that I would say, if you're a new entrepreneur, stop focusing on the past or on the mistakes, quote unquote, lessons that you've made. Focus on your future. Always be looking forward. We have a saying in our house, always be learning and always be looking forward. I feel like those are two rules to live by. If you are stuck in your past and woeing is meing and having
Yep.
everything around you be, you're a victim to all the circumstances around you, you will never make it, not only in life, definitely not in entrepreneurship. You have to have thick skin. You have to be able to be future focused, right? You have to be
Yep.
looking always at what's the next steps. You have to be creative. You have to be just ahead of everything, right? And
Yeah.
so if you're stuck in the past, that's where you're going to stay.
Mm.
Yeah.
So powerful. So talk about the, um, here you are, your husband running, cashing checks to cover payroll, and you're going. At some point, you in your business, you hit a different stride, and I mean, you had to have, considering what ended up happening, you had to have hit a really good stride at some point. So talk about where things went for you, and how long were you in business before you were like, okay, I think we're gonna make it.
So the first 3 years were the toughest 3 years of my life. Still to this day, I
Right.
would say the first year being the absolute toughest. The second year, I felt like there was a little relief because Malcolm was paid off. So that was also a super push for us. And
Right.
then the third year, like when I started to occasionally see us in the green in a few months here and there, that started feeling really great, right?
Yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
so once we kind of, and we actually moved out of the church at that time and we started a much larger school. And so, as you all know, too, as you scale, right, things become more manageable. And so we had obviously more income, more children, yes, there was more expenses as well, but we were able to use the magnitude of the size of the schools and the capacity, I guess is what I'm saying, to our advantage in terms of hiring the right people. So then less work on me, right? All the things that come with scaling. What I would say is I felt some relief in year 3. I felt really great in year 5. I mean, year 5, we were flying. We were doing really well. We were growing. We were expanding. We were reinvesting, which was huge for us, like putting our money back in the business, growing the businesses to other locations, adding integral people, right? Adding the people, processes, all the things that we could finally do because we had a nice financial stability.
So when at some point you ended up exiting, how
Yeah.
long were you in business when you decided to exit?
So the first I didn't decide. It was decided for me. So
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
about that. So the
Yeah,
first exit was at the 10-year mark. It was 2011. So I started in 2001 technically. So
yeah,
4.5 years. We'll call it 10 years for the purpose of this. But
yeah,
um, so we had private equity that had been sort of like following us and offering, continually sending letters of interest, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I'm not interested. I love this. I'm super passionate. I love these kids. I love my team. I love everything about what I'm doing. I am
yeah,
living life. Like, I'm so happy. I don't care about the work. I truly just felt like I was living in my passion, and
yeah,
I'd
right.
found something that I just loved it. And, I remember this guy, John, who was a broker, and he sent us a letter of interest. And I was like, no. And he was super persistent. Like, private equity really wants you. This is an opportunity of a lifetime, right? And I was like, I don't care. Like, I'm living the opportunity of a lifetime. Like,
Right.
I'm an entrepreneur, right?
Right. I used to move shelves out of the church every night. What are you talking about?
And by the way, I didn't tell you about this job I had. I worked at the cemetery, digging graves as a horticulturist for one summer. So this was like, I was living the dream here, right? So living the dream as an entrepreneur, so excited and happy about what we created, right?
Yeah.
It was just like, I just felt really great.
Yeah.
Then the next letter came with a number. Ken, I have never seen a number that had that many zeros in my entire life. First of all, I've never seen a number with a few zeros, never mind this many zeros. And so I was like, this cannot be real. Like, this is insane, right? Like, this is not real. So then he followed up with a phone call and, hey, can we meet for coffee? I'm like, whatever, we can meet for coffee. That's not going to hurt anybody, but I really want to know this guy's shtick. Like, what's the deal, right?
Yeah, right, right.
He was like, yeah, so they're interested in buying you. They don't want the real estate. You can own the real estate, continue to have passive income. It's a large company out of Australia. They're buying a bunch of centers, corporately in Canada. You have exactly what they're looking for, EBITDA wise, quality wise. They're looking for Montessori preschools. So there was a certain, subset of requirements. I checked all the boxes according to him. And so I was like, but this number, and he's like, yeah, they're willing to pay you this times EBITDA basically. And I'm like, well, have them make me an offer. Right. And I went home to my husband and I was like, I'm not going to sell, but I want to see that, like, if this is real, like, this is crazy, but let me just see. Right. Let me just see. So
how many locations did you have at this time?
So it was funny because we had 3 large locations, and then I had also a couple locations that were added to that. We had a non-for-profit. So probably like overall, probably 10 that we had up and down, back and forth, and then ended up with 3 big super centers. So like I had one was almost 300 kids. Like, so they were like really large centers. And then the not-for-profits, we ended up moving into for-profit. There was a process for that. But long story short, they made me an offer on paper. And sometimes, Ken, everything's for sale for a price. So I was like, I came home with the paper, legit. I was like, I have to talk to you about something, Bo. And he was like, okay, what's going on? Like, I'm like, so we got an offer today on our schools. And then I told him the number. I thought the guy was going to faint. Like, he was like, what? What are you talking about? And I was like, literally, like, this is the offer and it's signed. And so like, what do you want to do? And he was like, what do you want to do? And I was like, I don't know. I love this. Like, I love what we're doing. I don't know what I want to do. Right. And he's
buy
like,
a Tim Hortons or something.
Yeah, that's what he said. That's what Bill's like. We can buy 14 other schools. But it has to be your choice. He's trying to support me. Right. He's like,
oh my God.
Let's just talk this through. He's psych that he is, always with all the options.
My God.
How do you really feel about this, Julie? And I'm like, because as an entrepreneur, those were my babies. Like,
I know, I get it.
All the things, right? Anyhow, needless to say, we ended up selling. We exited those locations in 2011, and I retired. I drove everyone nuts, literally everyone nuts. I didn't know what to do with myself. I didn't know how to do anything except be an entrepreneur and solve problems and create things every day. And so now I'm at home. I've never been a housewife, I've never been a mom at home. I had no idea. I lost my identity. I lost everything that I knew about myself. I was like, who am I? Who's this person making muffins all day and going to the gym? Like, what am I doing?
Did you start day drinking?
Oh, so no, I don't. We don't even drink. That's a whole other story. But we do nothing, no noise. So no drinking.
Wow.
We're boring. But so
I don't drink either. So
yeah, we can talk about that in a minute, and I'll tell you why. But my purpose was gone. Besides my mom purpose, which, okay, I had a mom purpose, but that was not my identity, right?
Right.
And so I had a lot of reframing that year. It was actually, I felt like I had gone through a huge stage of grief, to be honest. I was so happy about the sale for my family's future. but I
Yeah.
was devastated about the sale for me, for my future and my mind and all the things that I felt like I became, right?
Wow.
So the grieving process was tough, and no one talks about that either, and how to get through that and what to do. And so anyways, I quickly picked my big girly pants up and I went and ran long-term homes, so long-term care centers for seniors. Can people die every night? Not a good idea. I was crying all the time. I was like, my husband's like, no, this is not good for us. They would call in the middle of the night for death certificates, and I'd be
Oh
like,
my
this
God.
is my friend, because I love these people, right? I'm a
Right.
protector of people naturally. So like these
Right.
people became my extended family, right? So
Oh
like
my
I
God.
would cry every time someone died, and I was like, this is not gonna work.
I'm sorry.
I would go in on the weekends and feed them and stuff, like literally, right? So he's like, Julie, like you're sad all the time. I'm like, I know, it's just terrible. Anyways, long story short, I was starting to look for other childcare centers to buy
Oh
because I'm
my
like, I'm
gosh.
trying to get back in. At the time, Michigan was a bad place to be in. I mean, it's 2011, auto industry.
It still is.
Yes. Well, I mean, there's some things happening in now at least, but and same with Ohio, like all the surround where I could get to via a car
Yeah.
naturally from Canada wasn't a good option for me to go reinvest in. I had a non-compete in Canada, so that wasn't going to happen. So long story short, I had put my word out to a bunch of brokers I knew, like, hey, find me something. It has to be this EBITDA, this much, because I'm going to be traveling. It needs to be at that time, I didn't know it was return on life, but it had to be return on life.
Yeah.
So found these schools in Omaha, Nebraska. She was 84. She needed a legacy. I was like, 84, you need a legacy? Shit. Oh God, that's me. So we had the same training in Montessori, a lot of things lined up. Anyways, she chose me to be the buyer. She had nationals that were going to buy her, but she wanted somebody that could come in and just run the centers and really care about the kids and the quality. Long story short, grew the centers. Instead of 10 years, it took me 3 years to get to 10 centers. I bought all the real estate as well the second time. Ended up same thing, 2011 or 2021. What's the two ones?
Right.
Top of COVID, I get a letter from private equity again saying, hey, we're interested in buying you. I'm like, oh, hell no, not again. Like, we're not doing this again. And I was like, I just got here. Bo quit his practice, shut everything down in Canada. We moved all our kids here. It was a really rough move for them. I'm like, and it was supposed to be a 10-year deal, right? We're going to be here for 10 years. Then I'll be 65. Maybe I can try this retirement thing again, right?
Right.
Yeah. So again, gave us an offer we couldn't refuse. So when I'm talking about karma, generosity, and giving, somebody is watching out for us 100%. Like there's something going on here that's way bigger than us. I don't know what that is. And I feel like there's a purpose behind it. And maybe he's or she, whatever, is trying to show me my path and the impact that I need to create for others. But got this opportunity again. The check was way bigger in 1/3 the amount of time because I did have mentorship. I had the opportunity to be in rooms with bigger people, had made the mistakes the first 10 years, grown organically. We did by acquisitions, the second scaling, grew much faster. In all of the time that we did everything we did in 10 years, we did in less than 3. And so
wow.
We sold May 28th after finishing our 10th location on May 1st.
Oh my gosh.
Yep. Yeah. And so what I did was I sold the businesses to private equity, which was Apex at the time. And we sold all of the real estate to a REIT. So we coupled the sale to close on the same day, congruent with each other. And we took all of the money from the real estate and 1031 did in triple net properties. So we own a large portfolio of triple net. And people are like, what is that, Julie? It is like we own Starbucks, Taco Bell's, dollar stores, big kinder cares, so large corporate childcare centers. Now people are going to ask me, you own those things? I didn't know you could own a Starbucks. We don't own the businesses. We only own the real estate and the land. And so all those businesses have leases with us for 15, 20 years. Triple net, meaning they pay the taxes They pay all of the insurance. We pay nothing. We just get a check in the bank every month now from these triple net corporations.
Wow.
Another great thing about triple net is that if they decide to close your location, so we just bought a Starbucks down the road here, right on 204th. It's like 5 minutes from my house.
You bought the real estate.
I bought the real estate and the land, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
they, with that, the exchange is a 12-year triple net lease. So they pay us for 12 years rent. They've corporately guaranteed that. So if they decide to close, Ken, like maybe they say in a year, we don't like this location, we're going to move to another location. They still have to pay me for 10 years.
Oh my
That's what a
God.
corporate guarantee is. Yeah. So we
Wow.
really created this portfolio. And so then everybody was like, Julie, we want to do this with you, right? So before that, though, we got all this passive income, which was awesome. I was like, holy crow, because we kind of had that with the schools. We sale leased back from ourselves, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
we kind of had this taste of it, but not at this level, right? And so then now we get paid every month from these triple net corporations. We make a bunch of money passively every year. Problem is, I had a huge tax bill because guess what? Now I don't have all the operations and the business activities. And if you're entrepreneurial, you know, everything that can be a write-off should be a write-off. So then I was like, what are we going to do? Put myself in Billionaire Boardroom, put myself in all these groups that said, Julie, you don't have to pay tax on that. Just invest in multifamily. You'll eradicate all the tax from your passive income. Learn all the tricks and tips on doing that. So created what we have now, which is a triangular, we call it a trifecta of investments, triple net coming in for the passive income, multifamily eradicating the tax. So we live 100% passively, 100% tax-free. And then we have some storage and institutional industrial with some really great folks that know what they're doing. We've partnered with them and to have a longer term IRR and some different capital exits, right? Because we don't want it all to happen at once. How did I get here? I learned from people that were here. I paid a ton of money in mentorships.
Yeah.
I follow all the people. I read like a mad woman every night. I'm committed to continual what I call it ABC, but it's always be learning. I'm continually putting myself in rooms with people that know and are doing better. Anyways, what happened was after that, we started to syndicate because people asked us, hey, Julie, I want to be part of this Starbucks deal. Like, I want to own a Starbucks. It's a super sexy asset. Let's face it, right? Like, I own a Starbucks.
Right.
Plus, I drink it, so I feel like I'm kind of supporting tenants while also having a really bad addiction to Starbucks coffee. But anyway, so what I did was I started to put syndications together so that if folks wanted to come in with us, they could buy. So we just did a Starbucks not too long ago, the one up the street here. So folks came in, they bought a share, so they have ownership day one. We don't use any debt, so we own the actual real estate and land day one, which is nice. So there's no bank involvement in any of that, and they get paid month one. They start to collect what we call passive income or cash flow. So it just is a really great opportunity for folks that would not have otherwise had the opportunity to own institutionalized or corporate triple net assets to be able to do so. Like how many people have $3 million to buy a Starbucks, but you might have 100,000 that you want to invest and be part of that ownership and make $570 a month. Like it's a nice way to start building longer legacy wealth and a way for you to create wealth that can be generational, right? And so assets appreciate. Even if Starbucks were to leave, now we have a building and land that's fully paid for. Like banks can't take that away. There's no rate issues. And Dunkin' Donuts or somebody else, as long as you have a drive-through, we've learned to buy drive-throughs. If you're doing any quick service, buy a drive-through. They'll come in and take it over, and Starbucks will still pay you for the 10 years that they owe you.
Will. I was getting ready to ask that question. So if Dunkin' Donuts came in, took over and they were paying you, Starbucks still has to pay you.
Starbucks has to pay us unless we choose an alternate tenant. So basically, they're paying you for a building that's not in use. And so they often, and because when they commit to that triple net lease for you, they're committing to the lease. Like you're inevitably buying the
Yeah.
lease, right? That's what you're.
You told me that, like, I live in Salina, Texas. You told me that you almost bought the Starbucks that we
I
go to all the time.
Yes,
That
and if Anthony's on here, he'll know that because he has been pushing
wow.
me for Prosper and Salina. So what we do as well is because we have really great relationships now with developers and we're closers, they know that we're going to get to the finish line with them no matter what. They
Yeah.
call us first. They're like, hey,
Wow.
Julie, Bo, do you guys want this Starbucks in Salina? Because maybe we bought the Starbucks for them. Like we just bought one in Guthrie, Oklahoma at the university there, at the
Yeah.
corner of the university. And so that university, has other affiliates that are like, oh, hey,
Wow.
she bought this one. And so the developers are calling us saying like, hey, do you want this Starbucks or do you want this KinderCare, for example? Like we
Yeah.
had the developers of KinderCare called us last week and we're like, hey, we have this many coming up. Like, what do you want?
Wow.
And when you're talking about those larger like KinderCare that are going IPO, things like that, childcare centers, people are like, oh, I don't want to invest in childcare. Well, first of all, it's a necessity. It's recession proof. Also, I am pretty good at it. So if you're
Yeah,
going to
right.
I
Right.
always do something else too that other folks aren't able to do. I create a ROFR on those institutionalized childcare centers that if anything goes awry with operations, I have the option to take it over, which is a
Wow.
no-brainer, right? I mean, so I just bought one in South Lake, Texas. The TLE, the New Learning Experience, is a corporate center. But they have the option of either selling it to franchise down the road or maybe, closing it. So I was like, oh, hell no. We're going to put a ROFR in here. If this goes anywhere, it's going to me and my friends and my
Wow.
childcare peeps, and we'll run this place and we'll just deal with that. Right. So.
So, okay. So, like, wow. 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 You are just brilliant. And it's mind blowing to me. So tell me what you think. Um, there's a lot of entrepreneurs that watch this show or listen to it on the podcast networks, that, you know, they hear what look, from my opinion, I'm like, wow, how in the world did you go from babysitting as a kid to now you're looking at all of these Starbucks opportunities, everything else, right? All the stuff that you're doing. Like it's mind-boggling to me. Like, how did you get there? How did that happen? Like, and the second part of that is, what do you think holds people back from having financial freedom and real joy and happiness in life? What are how's all that tie together for you?
That's a huge loaded question, Ken.
I
I think
know.
we could probably have another show on this. So I'm
Yeah.
going to try to be as brief and
Yeah,
as concise as I can be, but there's just so much to this question, right?
I know.
There's actually two questions, but hi, Sandy. So I guess the first question was, I'm ADHD. What was that first question again? What did
Just
you say? It was such a good question.
you don't even have to answer that one, honestly. I mean, you kinda told the story. I
How
just
I
said,
got
how
here.
how do
Yeah.
you go from babysitting as a kid to now you're buying Starbucks and you
Yeah.
started on I mean, you literally bootstrapped all of this to get to where you are, and it's unbelievable.
So, insanity a little bit. I mean, I think
Yeah,
all entrepreneurs have a little strand of insanity that it just separates us from the natural human
yeah,
population. I
yeah,
truly believe that we have something different. We work differently. Our mind works differently. I
yeah,
can't even sleep, Ken, at night. People are be like, Julie, when do you sleep? I literally don't. Like, I legit, my brain is, I don't take medication for ADHD. I probably need to or figure something out. My
right.
brain does not stop. I have
Same.
ideas after ideas after ideas after idea, like so many ideas. I don't, now I'm better about bright and shiny objects and not jumping on all those ideas. And actually, I have a program called Wealth Masters that we put in place for entrepreneurs that we coach and mentor. To try to help them stay in their lane, like look at the end goal, expand their businesses,
Yeah,
exit, have an exit strategy in mind, because we as entrepreneurs are so full of ideas, good and bad, but we just have a lot of ideas and we want to act on all of them, right? We think all of our ideas are great, but we have a hard time focusing. I think that when I was in that zone of creating and building my business, I was very much in the zone. I was 1000% committed to the end game. What I didn't know was that the end game was going to be this, right? I did know that it was going to be big, but my whole goal and purpose was impacting 1,000 children. I wanted to have 1,000 children impacted by my goal, which meant that they had quality early learning experiences. I did not have that. I was with a single mom, 3 jobs, whatever. I was in the basement of the church with the nuns, or I was with my grandparents, which that's a whole other thing. It was awesome to have that experience. But had I had Montessori when I was young, I would have had a way easier time in school. I would have not had the struggles I had in math because there's concrete learning, materials, all the things anyways. So my goal at the beginning was an honest goal of focusing to get to my 1,000 children served. Honestly, through that, I was receiving these other blessings through the adversity of business, right? I would say to a new entrepreneur, stay the course, stop trying to do all the bright and shiny. There's so much bright and shiny. You hear stories like this every day of amazing people, Alex Hermosi, like they're all over the internet. We're inundated by success stories. What we're not inundated by is the failures, the lessons, the challenges. I feel like as an entrepreneur, it's my duty and our duty as entrepreneurs to be transparent and to live with integrity and share the things that are not so glorious about entrepreneurship. Strategy is one of my top 10. And if Rosie Noel is watching this, it's in one of my top 10 Clifton strengths. Sometimes it's perceived as negativity. What I think it is transparency. So I'm very, very committed to being transparent in my journey and our family's journey, in the way that we raise our children, the way that we create friendships. I feel like focusing on the goal, being transparent, keeping your eye on the pie or on the end game, and knowing what is it that you want. I had a conversation with an entrepreneur this morning for an application process for Wealth Masters. And I said to him, what do you want? Like, I'm hearing a lot of things, but I don't think you know what you want. If you don't know what you want, how are you going to get there? I mean, it's literally impossible as an entrepreneur. If you don't know what you want, how are you going to get there? And I can't say that enough. I meet so many entrepreneurs and they're like, I want to do this, I want to do that. Okay, great. Where are we starting? What is the end game? Like, what is it that you want out of this? What is your why? And I know people say, well, that's so general, Julie, when you ask, what is your why? But I need to know that so I can put you in the right direction. Like, is family and generational wealth your goal? Or is it impact? Or is it like, where are you on this journey? And why are you on this journey?
I think though that I hear what you're saying, and I totally agree. You have to know what you want. Something Bob Proctor. I listen to Bob Proctor every day of my life, just about. And Brian,
trying to keep us on track.
Yeah, right. Brian has become a friend of mine, which is incredible to be able to say, his son. But I think about the people that don't know how to figure out what they want. And I've been there because I have all these different skills and I'm good at this, I'm good at that. And it's like, oh my God, I'm so good at all these different things and I love all of them. How does one determine what it is that they want? Do you have an answer for that?
So I don't know if I have the answer. I think there are certain things we can do. Like, one, I journal every morning, right? And whether that's on my phone, in my head, whatever, writing, what you write usually becomes your reality, honestly. So, recurring themes is a good way to start your journey. Like, hey, I continually see this recurring theme in my writing, in my thinking, in my thought process, in my creativity process. Maybe I got something here, right? Maybe this is really what's pulling me or what's calling me. it is really hard to find out what you want to do, especially if you're young. I'm going through this with my son Xavier right now. He's, second year, he's in college, and, we're like, at least do the business stuff safe, get the accounting, learn the basics for business, because it's never going to hurt you. There's two things I tell my kids in life. You need financial literacy for success. So you need to know all the things, right? You need to be financially literate. And two, you need to know how to sell. If you can sell, you will always have a living. It doesn't matter what the recession is. It doesn't matter what the world is. If you can tell your kids anything, I would tell them two things. Become financially literate, understand savings, investments, debts, managing credit, all that. And the second thing that I would tell any kid that asks me today, most teenagers that I talk to, I say, you need to learn to sell. Get your ass to Grant, go wherever, learn the sales process, learn the close, learn how to confront objections in sales. Those are all lifelong skills that can never, ever harm you. You're always going to have something to fall back on. And so this is what we're doing with Xavier. I mean, he's 19. He's been to Grant's sales training workshops. He's done the 10X business boot camp. He's been to numerous growth cons with me. My littles, we're going to a financial conference with the Billionaire Boardroom here in 2 weeks. My two littles will take 2 days off school because whatever, they're going to go to California and spend 2 full days learning financial literacy. They're 12 and 14. It's never early enough, honestly. What you put into their minds, this is a huge dedication for us as parents to make sure that our kids are going to be in a better position than us, and that we're just teaching them what we didn't know. And so the commitment to that is also something that's intentional,
Yeah. So the second part of my question earlier, and we should probably wrap this up soon, but we're over, but that's all right. I'm loving this. And unless you need to go, tell them, say I gotta go.
I only have you today, so
okay, good. Wow,
I reserved the whole day for you.
Okay, well then we'll just stay on the whole day.
We'll just do Q&A 24 hours. Who does that? Pace does that sometimes. He puts himself up on Saturdays and people just can ask questions all day. I definitely want to do that one day though. So we should.
Yeah. But so again, I know that we all, I love Dr. Joe Dispenza and everything he talks about and teaches. But and he talks about how we're always walking around in these stories that we're telling ourselves, the 60,000 thoughts a day, those stories, and how half of them are not even true, and 95% is autopilot and in our lives. And so what do you think? What's your opinion of, because I know you also work with entrepreneurs, what do you think is the biggest thing that's holding people back from having all of that? What is it that stops them?
So I would say there's a couple things, but one thing, limiting beliefs. Like, you create all that shit in your head. Like, your limiting beliefs come from insecurity, imposter syndrome, people that have said stuff to you, people that have done stuff to you in your past. All of that trauma is a collection in your mind, which basically equates to the limiting beliefs you live and breathe every day. If you can unpack all that crap and get it out, you won't have limiting beliefs. Do children have limiting beliefs? They think they can do everything. They think they can walk on water, for God's sakes. And guess why they have that? Because they have not been skewed with the reality, the noise, all the crap we have around us every day that limits the belief in ourselves. So the best thing we can do is unpack that, deal with the trauma, and move on. Again, look to the future. If we continually live in the past, whether it's even just in our head, that will limit your belief. You will not think big or think bigger, which is now the way that we think. We're like, we think big or we think bigger. There's no thinking small. There is just not allowed in this house. So if you're thinking small, we need to unpack why that is. Who made you believe that you couldn't do that? Who said something in your, in your history or in your past to make you believe that? Or who did something to you that crushed your spirit? Whether it was a teacher, maybe it was a bypass, a friend, a comment a friend made about your lifestyle, whatever it is. And that's not just something that happens once. We have to unpack this stuff all the time because
Yep.
unfortunately, people that are doing less than you are the ones criticizing you.
Amen.
So if people are doing less than you, they're always going to criticize you because guess what? You're a problem for them. You're a problem for them because they feel like they cannot ever get there. It is their problem, not yours. However, we as humans absorb this, right? Absorb the feedback as a problem with ourselves. We have to really be intentional and unpack the fact that this is not a us problem, that is a them problem. And that's where we have to leave it and move on. Yeah.
I should have asked you this in the beginning. What's your website that everybody can go follow you or find you?
Yeah, we're just creating a new one, but it's www.thejulieroy.com. Pretty easy. We used to have a bunch of other ones, but this is going to be it now. So just
the Julie Roy, like THE.
Yeah.
thejulieroy.com. That's easy.
Yeah, I know. And because everyone's like, Grant told me, stop hiding behind the brand. Stop hiding behind the brand. Julie, you're the brand. Put yourself out there. It's Julie Roy. So I'm like, okay. So, and it's so easy because now when people meet me, they remember my name and then they have the web. It's so smart of him. Right. And I think we had that conversation about.
He said the same thing to me.
Right? Ken Walls. Yeah. I think that's another thing that's a lesson for entrepreneurs early on that I didn't learn early enough was stop hiding behind the business brand and just be you. And those people that will resonate with you will follow you. Yeah.
And stop being afraid to invest in yourself.
Yes.
Even when you can't afford to, do it anyway.
Yeah. Do it scared. Do it scared, right? Do everything scared.
Yeah. I can, the very first time I got on the phone with one of Grant's salespeople, it was Todd Straw, who now runs the entire sales department. Todd was brand new back then. And he's hammering me on this $1,000 a month deal to get Cardone University, right? Sales training. And I was like, dude, that's $36,000 over 3 years. Are you serious? Like, no way, man. And I can just remember how small I was thinking back then. And now, like, I'm glad they closed me, quite frankly, because I wouldn't be where I am.
So a couple things about that lesson. One, if you're not investing in yourself, you're not growing. If you're learning, you're not growing, right? That's number one. Number two, sometimes what you don't do is actually what hurts you.
Yep.
So that's another thing to think about as an entrepreneur. And the last thing is, I would have never thought that I would have spent $350,000 in mentorships, and I've made that 20 times over.
That's right.
You cannot spend enough money on self-development. The first thing Grant says is before you do anything in business, develop yourself. And I wish I would have known that sooner. Two things in life I wish I would have known sooner: real estate investing and investing in myself sooner, because we would have gone even further faster, with the right people, the right processes, and the right financial mindset. You can really do anything. And those people in those groups, they know all the things, guys. Like, they've done all the things. We've learned this from other folks. This is not something, and from a lot of reading and studying, obviously, I'm committed, to continual growth. But those are the things that I'd say do as quickly as you can.
Julie Roy, you are a rock star. I am so, so grateful that I think it was Jedediah introduced us through Jenna, and wow, I'm so grateful to call you a friend now and to have had you on the show. There's some great things coming for you. I mean, I don't even think you've scratched the surface, quite frankly. I don't think you've scratched the surface. Everybody go follow Julie. Is all your social media on your website?
Yeah, it's all the Julie Roy. So it's Julie Roy on Facebook and the Julie Roy on Insta, Julie Roy on LinkedIn. So you can find me kind of everywhere now that I've rebranded and gotten smart about that. I'm super grateful to McGenna, Jedediah, all our friends that are in all these circles that literally have helped us become who we are today, all the support, the mentorships. Yeah, I mean, we owe the world, honestly, to all of you. We owe our life and where we are today because of all of you. And opportunities like this, Ken, to be able to share our story and have greater impact. Thanks, McGenna. I do. I truly love you guys. And I just want to help as many people as we can level up and create better, brighter futures for them as well. So thank you, Ken, for being a platform for us entrepreneurs to be able to do that. And it is so important to get the stories out there and get the reality, of what this looks like. And thank you, McGenna. And yeah, and just create those friendships and opportunities, because there's nothing honestly better in life than the relationships that we create and that we have around us. And so they will make you or break you. Like Elena says, people will either help you build your empire or they'll help you tear it down. So we have to make that choice. So amen to helping us build the empires and building them together. And all of us that are on the same track and all of us that have that same future goal, to level ourselves, our friends, our family up. Let's just keep doing it together. And yeah, let's just be gracious and generous with our time and our knowledge, and involve as many people and help as many people as we can.
Amen. Amen, sister. I agree. So, hey, listen, thank you from the bottom of my heart for coming on and being so transparent, open, and helping me, helping my audience and everybody watching. If you have not shared this out, please go ahead and share it out and get this amazing woman's message out to as many people as we can. Thank you all. If you're in the US, happy Thanksgiving, and I hope you have a wonderful week. Um, and we will see everybody next week back here on Breakthrough Walls. But Julie, God bless you. Thank you for being here today.
God bless you too, Ken. And again, so gracious and so appreciative that you had me on today. So thank you. Happy Thanksgiving to all my American folks. Canadians, you already had it last month, but happy Thanksgiving. And happy upcoming holidays to everyone. It's a busy, busy next 6 weeks here. So love you all. We'll see you soon.
Love you guys. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.